History books tell us that radiation is a death sentence. That contaminated land must be abandoned. That no one can survive where the atom has left its mark. But history books do not always tell the whole story. In the shadow of one of the world's worst nuclear disasters, one family stayed. Not for days. Not for months. For 40 years. They drank the water. They ate the crops. They raised their children. And they refused to leave. This is the story of the family that lived in a radioactive zone for 4 decades, and the uncomfortable question they force us to ask: what if everything we know about radiation is wrong? April 26, 1986. Chernobyl Reactor 4 explodes. The largest radioactive release in history. The Soviets declare a 30-kilometer exclusion zone. 350,000 people are evacuated. The message is clear: this land is dead. Stay away. But in the village of Kupovate, the Kovalenko family watched the trucks leave. Then they shut their door and stayed. Ivan Kovalenko was not a scientist. He was a farmer. When soldiers ordered him out, he said, "This is my home. Where would I go?" His wife Maria added, "The potatoes still grow. The well still has water. God will decide when we leave." They called them fools. They called them suicidal. But the Kovalenkos were not alone. Scattered across the zone, dozens of families made the same choice. The Samosli. The self-settlers. People who refused to abandon their homeland even after it was declared poisoned. For years they lived in a ghost world. Silent roads. Empty villages. Radiation detectors clicking day and night. But they adapted. They learned which wells were safer. They planted where the wind carried less fallout. They kept goats and chickens. And they survived. Maria gave birth to 2 more children inside the zone. The children played in fields that Geiger counters screamed about. They swam in the river scientists called toxic. They ate berries from the hottest bushes. And they grew up healthy. This should not have happened. Every model said they would get sick. Every prediction said they would die. But when researchers finally found them decades later, they discovered something shocking. The Kovalenko children were thriving. One became a teacher. One became a mechanic. They had their own children inside the zone. Second generation. Also healthy. Also normal. Also alive. The radiation was real. The instruments worked. The levels in Kupovate were high enough to trigger alarms anywhere else on Earth. But the Kovalenkos were not dying. They were not even sick. Scientists were baffled. Some proposed radiation hormesis, the idea that low levels might actually stimulate the body's repair systems. That humans could adapt to stress over time. That our bodies are more resilient than our regulations allow. Others pointed to something simpler. The Kovalenkos ate fresh food. They breathed clean air. They had strong community bonds. Their isolation protected them from the modern world's real killers: processed food, pollution, chronic stress. But Ivan Kovalenko gave the most uncomfortable answer. When asked why they survived, he said, "We did not fear it. Fear kills faster than radiation." They finally left in 2012. Not sick. Not forced. Ivan died at 84, and Maria could not farm alone. She spent her last years in a city apartment, complaining that the air tasted wrong. She died at 91. No cancers, no thyroid damage, nothing that explained how a woman who lived 40 years in a radioactive zone outlived most of those who fled. The Kovalenkos are gone now. The Samosli are nearly extinct. The zone is still forbidden. But their story asks a question we do not want to face. How much of what we call dangerous is actually manageable? How much of our fear is based on science? And how much on assumption? If one family can live 40 years in a place we declared dead, what else might we be wrong about? History is written by the stubborn, the ones who refuse to leave, the ones who trust their own experience over official warnings, the ones who look at a forbidden land and see home. The zone is still radioactive. The warnings still stand, but somewhere in the overgrown fields of Kupovate, the Kovalenko house foundations still remain. And if you listen carefully, the Geiger counters still click. But softer now, as if even radiation, given enough time, learns to share the land. If you enjoyed this story, like, share, and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.